Hi everyone, my name is Joy Berrichs. I'm a lecturer in investigative abilities and organizational behavior. I was supposed to give you the lecture on sustainable employability today. However, as you can see, I am currently sitting in a wheelchair. I had a small accident while bouldering. I broke my foot and I've been home for a couple of weeks now. So I wasn't able to come to school and give you guys a lecture. So I hope everything will turn out fine with this video. I'm not going to provide you the whole lecture because it's getting boring and tedious if I continue for a couple of hours, maybe one. So I try to keep it as short as possible and to give you the main points from this lecture. And you have the lecture slide. So if you have any questions, make sure to just contact me via email. Ms. Ouwendijk will give you my contact details and I'm sure you will work it out all fine. This lecture actually has come forth out of the fact that I was always wondering why people were experiencing health complaints. And I don't mean those bone fractures that I'm experiencing here, but I mean, for example, common low back pain. I mean stress complaints. I mean burnout complaints. I guess you have seen the headings, the headlines from the newspapers. And maybe you actually have someone in your environment that experiences this and you may have noticed that these people have been around at home for a couple of maybe weeks or even months. So when I was studying facility management myself, I decided to conduct a research on this and I wanted to see, okay, how can the working environment influence the health and well-being of employees? And moreover, the question, why do people engage in unhealthy behavior anyways? I mean, we all know that smoking and no exercise are bad for you. So what is the reason that people are still doing this? I found out about the term sustainable employability, and sustainable employability is different from the term sustainability. Where sustainability focuses a lot on the environment, sustainable employability focuses on the human element of it. And if you want to be sustainable employable, it means that you are productively employed throughout your working career. So it means that you can work until you retire. Furthermore, it means that your work enhances your psychological, so your mental well-being, as well as your economical well-being. And finally, it means that you're able to balance both your working life as well as your private life. So making a combination of the two. The question is, why is this of such importance? Besides the fact that, for example, obesity rates have been increasing over time, burnout complaints are getting through the roof. People are sitting at home for a longer period of time. We also see that the working population is aging. This means that a lot of younger workers have to do the work of the older workers. If older people retire, we as the younger workers need to make sure, okay, do we have enough funds for the older workers? So this means we actually need to work longer. We need to make sure that our workers are healthy, that are able to work until they're 60, 70, maybe later on 80, I don't know. So it's as simple as that. We need to make sure that people can work for a longer period of time. And therefore, we need to make sure that people are healthy, because else they will go on sickness absence, they will go on sick leave, they will maybe even quit their jobs. So we need to take a look at, okay, which factors actually contribute to this health and well-being of people. And actually many factors together combine the health and well-being, affect the health of individuals and communities. Whether people are healthy or not is not determined only by the circumstances and environment. To a large extent, factors such as where we live, factors such as the state of our environment, so in what kind of neighborhood, for example, you live, your genetics, do you have particular genes that make you more prone to a certain illness, your income, so people with a lower income often tend to be less healthy, also because they have less knowledge about what is good or what is not good. Educational level plays an important role there. But also our relationships with friends and family. So if you have a large group of friends that all act in an unhealthy way, it's easier for you to mingle in that behavior. So maybe you can consider this for yourself as well. If you have a group of friends that all smoke, it's quite difficult for you not to smoke because you get influenced by the people around you. So we actually see that the context of the people where they live in determine their health. And you can actually not blame people for having a poor health or not, because of the fact that it often is not really their fault. So if you take a look at the model of health behavior in the slides, you can clearly see, okay, there are different factors that influence the health behavior of a person. And our job as facility managers is to see, okay, which of these elements can we actually change in a person to make sure that they're getting increased health, that they're increasing their health and well-being. One of the factors that you see in the lecture slides are habits. And I think this is one of the factors that I'm most interested in, because you can change a habit of a person. A habit is really an action that has become automatically cued over time, meaning that something might happen in your environment, and because of that environmental trigger, you perform a certain action. So you can think for yourself, do you have any particular good habits, but maybe also bad habits? And how does this habit form for yourself? So for example, in the morning, if you wake up and you walk to the kitchen and you see the pack of cigarettes laying on the counter, that might actually be your environmental trigger to light up a cigarette. So in an environment, you can change certain elements, and if you change the environmental cues, people may actually not perform the habits, or they may develop good habits. For example, if you want to make sure that you use a toothpick in the morning after you brush your teeth, one of the things that you can stimulate for yourself doing is the night before you can already lay it down on the sink, making sure that you see it the next day, and then it's easier to use it. So quite often there are very small changes in the environment that make you help to actually use it. I remember that when I went to Malta in my second year placement, you guys will go there as of next year, I was surrounded by a negative environment, I have to say, because in the morning we always had coffee and cake at the place where I was working. Then in the afternoon when I was walking home, I always walked past by this little place where it smelled like pastries, and there were always these 3 older guys in front of it sitting, and they were waving at me, making a short talk, and I always sat together with them, and they had these very nice puffed pastries. So every day I basically had one. At night I went for dinner with my friends. Everyone was ordering pizza. Of course, you order pizza yourself as well. Then you go to Paceville, and Paceville was like the street of going out. And what we drank there were these really big pitchers, vodka Red Bull. Of course, after partying, you went home, you had some food again. And 6 months later, I actually came home and I was looking at my pictures and I realized that I've gained 12 kilos. So this is a very clear example of changing to a new environment can also trigger something in your brain, which makes you perform a certain action. So habit formation really involves this creation of an association in your memory. For example, for me, while I was walking past by these 3 old guys and smelling the pastry, so something happens in the environment, created my action of going inside and to eat this pastry. So if you change these stable environments, if you change these stable features in this environment, you can also change your own behavior. And that makes it interesting because this creates this psychological point of view on it. Because if I, for example, would have taken another route back home after work, I would have changed this stable feature of this little store with these old grandpas. So also for yourself, think about it. What would you like to change? Which bad habits would you like to change? And what would you then, for example, change in your context in order to make sure that your behavior would change as well? So based on this first part, we learned something about the health behavior of people. And the remaining question is really, okay, but how does this relate to the working environment? And how does this relate to facility management? To what extent do you actually think that facility management can contribute to the health and well-being of people? Well, there are actually 3 interventions that I describe in the lecture. These include, first of all, health protection, disease prevention, and health promotion. There are 3 different ways to look at health in a working environment. A facility manager can, for example, make sure that the workers at a building site adhere to the health and safety regulations. So make sure that you walk around, that you look if people are wearing a helmet, that they're wearing their safety gear. And this is health protection. You're protecting their health. So making sure that no building blocks are falling into their heads, for example. Furthermore, an employer at a hospital, a facility manager at a hospital can make it mandatory that the nurses are using a patient lift to move the patient from the bed until the chair, for example. Making sure that they don't experience that much common low back pain. This would more relate to disease prevention, so preventing the nurses from getting common low back pain. The last one, I would say, is most interesting. So health promotion, and maybe even most effective. Health promotion means that you, for example, implement standing desks at a working environment, so people don't sit the whole day. You can also make sure that there's healthy food available in the catering area. You can make sure that there are gym facilities provided by the organization, or that, for example, people get a discount at a gym in the neighborhood. You can provide options for bicycle use, making sure, okay, we have bicycle sheds, we have points for electricity to load the electrical bikes, and you maybe even make sure that people get this bike from work. Just to make sure that actually people get a healthier lifestyle, resulting in less sickness absence. Making sure, okay, if people engage in a healthy way at work, they might also maybe do this in their private life, and this will actually contribute to the productivity and the absenteeism at the working environment. So, all in all, we're 12 minutes further. It's a shorter lecture. I hope everything was a little bit clearer by means of looking at the lecture slides and listening to this very short pitch. The main question of this lecture is, what can a facility manager do to make sure that there's less sickness absence and to make sure that there's an increased productivity in the working environment? And I always say that facility management can be seen as a tool to stimulate the health and well-being of an employee, because facility managers are the ones that actually can change something in the environment that can, for example, stimulate either habit creation or habit demolishment. I don't know, that's not the right word, but I mean that people are not performing a certain habit anymore. So how can we change the physical and the psychological working environment with small interventions, so that we make sure that we have happier and healthier employees, and therefore in the end more productivity? And I want you guys to think about this. Think about maybe even the school environment. How can you make sure that people take the stairs more often? How can you make sure that people go for a walk outside? How can you make sure that people choose for the more healthy options? And I will send you guys 2 articles with this lecture, one on sustainable employability and one on nudging. And nudging really relates to, okay, what can we change unconsciously in the environment, so people actually don't even notice it, but still they perform a certain behavior. So it's really looking at the psychological aspect of facility management and what can we do to stimulate a certain behavior. I hope you guys enjoy this subject as much as I do, and I wish you all good luck with the small assignment Ms. Ouwendijk has created for you guys, and I hope to see you soon with a whole recovered leg. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact me. All right, bye-bye.